Again, I would like to start our session with a question. What to you is the importance of internationalization in higher education? Because that will be our topic for today, internationalization. And how can internationalization of higher education be implemented? Or in other words, how are you doing your internationalization program now? So that's the first question. What is the importance of internationalization, especially in higher education? And how can internationalization, how are we implementing our internationalization in our respective universities, or what are the initiatives in our universities which we can consider as part of our internationalization initiative? Again, the reason why I asked that question is because this is our topic today. Internationalization of higher education in the time of COVID-19 pandemic, and hopefully even after the COVID-19 pandemic, some strategies to consider. So now that mobility is hampered, or we cannot be mobile, we cannot do the usual internationalization strategies that we've been doing before the COVID-19 pandemic. But I mentioned that this is something that we hope can also be implemented even after the COVID-19 pandemic, because these strategies can also be considered as relevant, even if there's no more restriction when it comes to our travel, whether it's local or international travel. So our session objectives, we can revisit the importance of internationalization of higher education. Bakit nga ba mahalaga? Kanina nasabi nyo na yung ibang mga rason. So let us revisit. Let us revisit why it is really important for us to pursue programs and initiatives that are geared towards internationalization. Describe some strategies for internationalization which can be implemented in the time of COVID-19 pandemic, and as I mentioned earlier, even after the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course, develop internationalization plan at the program. Kung hindi natin kaya yung program, at least at the course level, at the course that we are handling now. Okay. For this particular session, I will be referring much to CMO number 55, series of 2016. I think you are all familiar with this. This CMO is the policy framework and strategies on the internationalization of Philippine higher education. So this is our enabling mechanism, why we are pursuing internationalization in our universities. And in fact, the document also provides some types of support that CHED can provide universities who are pursuing internationalization programs. So may mga suporta, depende kung ano yung klaseng internationalization initiative that we are planning to implement. So this is the main document, the enabling mechanism for internationalization for higher education. And I think it's also stated in that CMO that it complements other CHED memorandum orders that provide policies, strategies, and procedures on transnational education. Kasi the moment that you talk of internationalization, you also talk of transnational education, open and distance e-learning programs, student mobility and exchange, and other forms of internationalization schemes. So, hindi magkakasalungat itong mga CMOs na to na nanggaling sa CHED. Okay? So if we're going to look, what exactly is international? Let's revisit, ano na nga bang ibig sabihin itong internationalization of higher education? So it is an integration of international, yan, lumabas na yan kanina dun sa ating, yung mga sagot dun sa tanong natin, international, intercultural dimensions of higher education, institutions, purpose, functions, and delivery. So kasama, ini-integrate natin yung international and intercultural dimension. Because as we have mentioned, kanina yung naging sagot, multicultural awareness. And in fact, dealing or handling cultural diversity. That is something that, we are also integrating into our curriculum, into the way we are teaching, that cultural diversity sensitiveness. 'di ba? And respect. So itinuturo na natin 'yan. So internationalization is also a process of interchange of higher education between nations, no? Between nations, it can be country to country level arrangement, or between institutions of higher education. So your institution entering into a partnership with another institution from another country, then that is also a form of internationalization. It is an expansion of higher learning within and beyond national borders. Kasi if we will look later, pwede rin tayong tingnan yung how we are doing it within our national border, yung home base na tinatawag nila. And it is a much broader concept than cross-border education. Initially, when we talk of internationalization, we were just referring to cross-border education. Yung magpapadala tayo ng mga faculty natin para mag-aral sa abroad, di ba? So, noong una, yun yung nagiging concept, or yun yung naging concept ng internationalization. It's just a cross-border education. Pero ngayon, with this CMO, it was also made clear that internationalization covers more than the cross-border education. So kanina, na-mention na yung research. Tama po yun. Tama po yun na ngayon, internationalization even includes the research aspect, the collaboration across universities or even with other universities from other countries. Okay, so why internationalization? Ayan, lumabas na rin yan kanina, ano? Quality, di ba? Yung producing the kind of graduates that we have. So ito, lumabas niya, enhance the quality of Philippine higher education. Tapos ito, yung reputation natin, lumabas din yan kanina, no? So, uphold the country's reputation as a center of higher education in identified niches or programs of excellence. So, pwede nating ibigay dito, halimbawa yung mga degree programs natin in agriculture, in medicine, and syempre medyo bias ako, kasama na rin yung distance e-learning because we are also claiming leadership in distance e-learning. And in relation to this, yung internationalization is also a factor in university ranking. Yung mga world ranking natin ngayon, THE, QS, yung mga yan, tinitingnan din nila yung internationalization initiatives natin. So, halimbawa, kung ang mga universities ninyo, and if you, those of you who were able to be part of, or to listen to the Senate budget hearing which happened last Monday, it was also presented by Chair Popoy that there will be that much that additional focus on internationalization because may mga nakita ng mga universities, both private HEIs, SUCs, ganyan, na posibleng mag-rank din, no? So tutulungan din ng CHED, but yun nga, internationalization is one component or one aspect being evaluated when we do university ranking. Of course, meron din sa atin, and I am aware of that, na hindi masyadong naniniwala sa university ranking, ano? And I respect your opinion, I respect your perspective, because once upon a time, not so long ago, I share the same perspective. Pero there are reasons why now I also support the university like UP's pursuit of being ranked, yung tumaas yung ranking, ano, because there are parameters, there are indicators which will really lend to the quality of education that we are giving. So yun, kaya nagkaroon ako ng somehow a compromise about university ranking. The other reason for internationalization, it strengthens our role, the country's role in an interconnected global community. Kasi education is one aspect wherein we can stay connected with the global community. And I know, I'm sure you are aware of this, on how we are putting the Philippines, our country, in the world map, especially when it comes to education, no? So ngayon, yung mga universities natin, yung expertise natin, tinatap na, di ba? Especially nga na many of our graduates are now working abroad. Diba? So somehow they carry with them the reputation of our educational institution, the kind of education that we are giving to our students, and the kind of higher education that we have in our country. So yun yung isang role din ng internationalization. Develop Philippine HEIs as productive members of the international academic community, especially if we are doing research, especially if we are publishing, diba? And if we are collaborating with them, if we are offering our courses for enrollment by students from other countries. And I know many universities are also doing that. Produce graduates with the 21st century competencies who are able to love and work in a diverse multicultural setting. So I have mentioned this already, because part of our internationalization, as shared also earlier, is for us to develop that kind of respect and awareness with a diverse culture. Even in our country, we don't have to go out of our country to know that there are diverse culture that we need to deal with. And by doing this in the programs, in the courses that we are teaching, then we are already preparing our students to this kind of work environment. Diba? So faster, closer cooperation and understanding between the Philippines and the rest of the world. Kasi mga kapartner na natin sila. So we are working with them, they understand us, we understand them. Diba? So in a way, it can foster the kind of understanding between our country and other countries. As I have mentioned, internationalization is broader than undergraduate mobility. So yun din yung unang perception, ano? A great deal of attention has been paid to all modes of international academic mobility. So no, pinag-usapan yung people mobility, programs, providers, policies, and project. But not enough internationalization, probably nitong bandang huli na lamang, ano, of graduate education and research. Including international co-authorship and other international research benchmarks. So ito kasama pa rin sa internationalization. Kanina na-mention na yung research, but what about international co-authorship? So have we included that in concretizing the kind of internationalization programs and initiatives that we are offering or doing in our respective universities? So there are two pillars of internationalization. So for those of you who are familiar with the CMO, with this CHED memorandum order, so two types or pillars of internationalization. So there is the home base or campus base, and this is within our national borders. So it takes place through collaborative activities and events, networking, partnerships, and other forms of linkages with foreign HEIs, with other higher education institutions, and often enabled by information technology. Without the learner or the faculty or our staff leaving or moving out of our respective national territories. So, kapartner natin ay nasa Europe, nasa Canada, di ba? Hindi natin kailangang umalis ng ating mga bansa at ng ating mga institusyon so we can implement the home-based or campus-based type of internationalization. Again, this is enabled by information technology, and this is something that we can very well do now, especially that we are now into online teaching. So we are now enabled by the modern information and communications technology, and we can add now to the kind of work that we are doing, something that is towards the direction of internationalization of our university. Of course, the cross-border internationalization, something that we are all familiar with. It involves mobility of students, faculty, researchers, programs, institutions, knowledge, ideas, projects, and services across national boundaries. So marami nang kasama dito kasi programa, institusyon, pwede nang tumawid ng mga national boundaries. So ito yung tinatawag naman na cross-border internationalization. But then again, there are also some activities under this, the cross-border internationalization, that can still be considered, especially if we are thinking that the COVID-19 pandemic will go beyond this academic year. But even if natapos na tong COVID-19 pandemic, like for instance, we will be doing it for one academic year, but this is something that we can still consider even after the COVID-19 pandemic. Kaya nga, what we are saying is that this is the type of international or internationalization activities that we can consider during the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond, 'di ba? So, para mas marami tayong options. Okay? Kasi, syempre, pag nag-cross-border tayo, malaki na yung gastos. There, the cost to consider. Of course, if we're doing it the home-based or campus-based, there will still be costs, but not probably as much as if we will be doing it if it's a cross-border internationalization. Okay? So, what are the activities? Again, this is from the CMO 55. So on curriculum and programs, ito yung level, this is the level. What are the activities that we can do? We can provide international content and dimensions in the curriculum, learning and teaching programs, as well as in the learning material. So if we provide the international content in the programs that we are offering, diba? So we provide our students with a world view, what's happening in other culture, what's happening in other country, then in a way, we are already having that kind of internationalization. The teaching and learning process, it involves returned study abroad students. We are asking them to teach. Halimbawa, yung mga napagtapos natin, use of international scholars and teachers. So we invite them to teach with us. No? This is also a very common practice. So we invite experts to come and be in our university, lecturers for a semester, diba? Teaching some of our courses, so something that we are also doing. Integration of international and intercultural materials and virtual student mobility, like in distance learning. So if you will notice, even as early as 2016, this virtual student mobility has been included already for consideration. But the question is, how many of our universities are really taking advantage of this type of internationalization, the virtual? How many of us in our universities have considered studying for our postgraduate programs in the distance mode? At UPOU, I can already name one has completed already. Somehow it's a blended type of degree from UK. So natapos na yung PhD yun. Now we have two faculty members also pursuing their PhD programs. Actually tatlo pala. There are 3 faculty members now pursuing their PhD programs via this virtual student mobility. So one is enrolled in a European university. I think dalawa. The 2 are in European university. One I think is in an Australian university, but they are all here. They are all here in the Philippines. So something that can be considered, because they are in different contexts, and they prefer that they pursue their PhD programs under this mode of instructional delivery. On extracurricular activities, this is also something that can be done. Student clubs and organizations link with those in other countries, holding of intercultural campus events, as well as establishing connections with cultural and ethnic groups, supposed to be ethnic groups. So again, at this level, even if we will just connect our student clubs with those from other countries or universities, there is also that type of internationalization that is happening. Okay. We liaise also with local cultural and ethnic groups. We engage with them through internships, so that we will have this multicultural awareness, applied research, teaching and learning, research, and other extracurricular activities, even if it's a local cultural and ethnic groups, because that will also increase the cultural awareness, the multicultural awareness of our students. And again, this one, on research and scholarly activities, theme centers, and joint research projects with international content. So halimbawa, kung meron tayong mga Islamic study, ganyan, or center, ganon, so that is something that can be considered. In some universities that I visited, meron silang halimbawa Chinese center, parang ganon. So the culture, the language, the literature. So may isang department o may isang unit yung university devoted for that alone. So may mga ganyan sila na dinidevote, and that can be considered as, again, a kind of internationalization activity. And if you have noted, even holding of international conferences, seminars, and workshops, diba? So pwede rin i-consider as internationalization activity. So while we are discussing all these things, you can now go back. You can now go back to the kinds of activities that you have implemented in your university and try to find, okay, so ito pala ay pwede ko na i-consider as an internationalization activity. So again, this is as per CMO 55 series of 2016. Now, when we talk of cross-border internationalization, we also talk of student-faculty researcher mobility. Again, this is something, ito yung original conceptualization natin ng internationalization. So, movement of students to study in a foreign country. So, we usually send our faculty members, diba? Our students to study in foreign country, faculty exchanges. So between institutions, so we invite teachers, faculty members from other institutions, and we also send some of our faculty members because somehow we believe that that kind of experience will also enrich their teaching practice, no, kapag ka nakaturo sila in other institutions. Research collaborations involving visits of scholars to countries of collaborating institutions. For UPOU, siguro dito muna sa faculty exchange. I think many of you were also involved in this EduConnect of Taiwan, universities in Taiwan, especially those which are based in Kaohsiung. Usually a team of university delegates, mga presidents, mga officials, ganyan. During the past years, they will visit the Philippines. They have this arrangement with PASUC, diba? With us at the University of the Philippines. So, and then there is this faculty exchange. Minsan ini-invite nila yung mga faculty natin, di ba? And I think if you can probably reflect also kung meron sa inyong nakapunta or meron kayong mga colleagues, some of your colleagues were sent to look at the institutions, higher education institutions in Taiwan, where they can pursue their advanced studies. Right now, from UPOU, I don't have the number for the whole University of the Philippines, but for UPOU, we already have 2 faculty members doing their PhD programs in Taiwan. So yun yung naging resulta nito. And before the pandemic, there were also discussions on the faculty exchange. So sinimulan na rin po yung usapan on the faculty exchange. So hopefully, again, this is something that we can still pursue even during this time of pandemic and even after, matuloy na yung usapan about the faculty exchange. Research collaboration, something that we are really doing. So like for instance, for UPOU, we are part of this what we call the OU5, the 5 open universities in Southeast Asia. So these are open universities from Indonesia, from Vietnam, from Thailand, Malaysia, and then the Philippines. So we call ourselves OU5. And then every year or every 2 years, we identify research topics which we can do together, yung 5 universities working together on research topics, especially those research which are directly related to distance education or online learning. And then those researchers, so they present papers in conferences, mga co-presenters sila, or they write papers together to be published. So this is a yearly thing. In addition, we also have the exchange fellow. So those universities would provide funding so that they can host like 2, 3, 4 other open universities, like those in China. They can really host up to 10 academic staff from other universities, and then they can stay there for a period of minimum of 2 weeks up to 2 months. So nasa sa iyo na yung kung paano mo, and then these are research activities that they will do together in this in the host institution, and then they can also collaborate with other higher education institutions in the region. There's also one program that I instituted when I was still president of the Asian Association of Open Universities, wherein institutions can propose research that they will do together. And then the Asian Association of Open Universities will fund the research. So this is a yearly thing that we were able to put in place, making use of the funding that we were able to accumulate through the years, and then funding research activities of the member institutions. So again, we put premium to this kind of internationalization activity: faculty exchange, research exchange or collaboration, and even writing papers together. So foreign language study is also a form of cross-border internationalization, something that we also pursued through the massive open online courses, and building international perspectives through conferences. Again, kasama pa rin dito, conferences. So we usually attend international conferences, di ba? Something that is also being supported, although I'm not, even CHED also provides support for attendance to international conferences. So at UPOU, we also provide, we call it the Research Dissemination Grant, to provide assistance to our staff who wants to present papers, share results of research in international conferences. So that is also another type of internationalization that we are pursuing. So like also at UPOU, somehow we put a standard of at least one international conference every year, to just make you aware of what's happening in your field in the global context. So, hindi limited lang sa nangyayari sa institusyon, nangyayari sa Pilipinas, but attending international conferences will also enable you, one, to know what's the current trend. Ano ba yung pinag-uusapan ng mga researchers ngayon? Ikalawa, networking. Conferences are very good opportunities and venues for networking. Kasi doon mo makikita yung mga katulad mo yung nire-research eh. I mean, the same topics that you are pursuing, diba? Pag narinig din yung mga paper presentations mo, magiging interested din doon sa research mo. If I may say, that was also the start of our OU5 collaboration. I have mentioned that earlier. I presented a paper in one international conference. I think it's one of the annual conferences of the Asian Association of Open Universities. I was not yet president at the time, but I presented a paper, and the session chair, which came from Malaysia, a university in Malaysia, so heard my presentation. And I think a month or two after the conference, of course, she got my business card, and a month or two after the conference, she sent me an email and said that she is forming a group of researchers, and then we can discuss research topics that we can pursue together. So that became the start of the OU5 collaboration. And after the research collaboration, there was also this collaboration to develop the ASEAN Studies program. So even degree programs became a subject or an area of collaboration among these open universities. And now we are implementing the certificate, the graduate certificate, and the Masters in ASEAN Studies. So results of internationalization na yung mga yun. Okay. So activities under cross-border internationalization, program mobility. I think you are familiar with the twinning program. Many universities are also into this twinning program. We arrange a partnership, and then we offer the program. Academic franchising, we seek permission so that we can offer a program being offered by other foreign institution to our institution. program articulation, we talk on how there can be a credit transfer across institution. You will take these courses, etc. So may mga ganyan ding arrangement. Double awards, the partner universities can each give an award. So may kukuhanin ditong courses, set of courses, isang institution, may kukuhanin dito, pero they can give a joint or double degree awards. Institutional mobility consists of presence of foreign universities in another country. Again, marami ng ganito dito, ano, in the form of branch campuses, offshore institutions, and international institutions. This one is now governed by the transnational education. So meron na ring separate document which deals with all this, the twinning program, academic franchising, double awards. If you want to know more about this, then you can also refer to the CMO on transnational education. Okay? So ito, just a word reminder, there is no doubt that internationalization has come of age kasi we are no longer talking of just the cross-border education. It is no longer an ad hoc or marginalized part of the higher education landscape. Before, many universities were not even taking notice of this. Of course, that is understandable given that we have so many concerns to attend to. Ano? So bakit, di ba? Yun na lang making sure that we are delivering quality education even without this component. Di ba? So yun lang is already keeping us busy. But now, given this higher level of awareness on the importance of internationalization, so it's no longer a marginalized part of the higher education landscape. So now we can see that university strategic plans, even the national policy statements, as I mentioned about CHED, so may mga transnational education CMOs na tayo, which can guide us on how we will go about our internationalization initiatives. And there are international declarations, academic articles, which indicate the centrality of internationalization in the world of higher education in many, if not all, most if not all, higher education institutions in our country. So in a way, may mga makikita tayo ng mga indicators of internationalization activities in many, if not all, of our higher education institutions. Okay? Now, those of you who also able to, this is our context now, okay? So internationalization of higher education in the time of COVID-19 pandemic. And those of you who were able to listen to the public hearing last Friday, you know, and so it was discussed, what are the guidelines on the implementation of flexible learning? So this is the kind of context that we are in now, flexible learning. Talagang, in a way, and in the very immediate future, it's ruling out the face-to-face instruction and even really preventing mobility, even local mobility. So given this context, ano na yung gagawin natin sa internationalization? So we go back to the different activities that I have discussed or presented earlier, and we can see that there's still a lot that we can implement when it comes to internationalization, even under the flexible learning pathways that we have now. No? Even, sabihin nga natin, even during the time of COVID-19 pandemic, we can still implement internationalization activities and programs. So ano yung mga yon? I call them the technology-enabled internationalization, which is not new, no? It's not new because even kanina, especially in the home-based internationalization strategies, it was already mentioned that this type of internationalization, that particular pillar of internationalization, is enabled by modern ICTs. Okay, so what are the emerging strategies? Okay, we pwede nating sabihin na they are not emerging because they are already articulated in the CMO. The home-based internationalization and the cross-border internationalization, especially if we are talking of course level internationalization. Kasi baka nga mamaya, kung if it's not yet integrated into the design of our degree programs, then probably we can consider designing them at the course level internationalization, something that is easier to do because it is just a course level internationalization. But better if there is already an existing policies, existing declaration on how internationalization can be done or is being done at the institution, program, and course level, then it will not be very difficult for us to implement some of this even with the COVID-19 pandemic. But the other emerging strategies are the following. Collaborative online international learning, or COIL. I think this is something that many of you are also familiar with, but probably if we haven't thought of pursuing it, then it's probably the time for us to consider how can we implement something like this, a framework, this kind of framework into in our university. Faculty exchange or tapping experts as lecturers, enrollment in online credit courses, especially now that many universities are offering courses online, enrollment in massive open online courses, and research, collaboration, and joint authorship. So even with COVID-19 pandemic, these are the things that we can do now. So let's see additional information about these strategies. So this collaborative online international learning, you start with at the course level. So kaya nakalagay dito, course development. So it is referred to as a globally networked learning and virtual exchange. Okay, if you want to know more about it, you can look at this guide. This is a faculty guide, and there's a very detailed discussion on how you can go about developing courses or even redesigning the courses that you are teaching now, so that it can have this component of collaborative online international learning. So there is that global network, learning and virtual exchange. It is a new teaching and learning paradigm that promotes the development of intercultural competence across shared multicultural learning environments. So if you will notice, there is really this emphasis, because this is something that is being given premium in this type of framework, the multicultural or intercultural competence being shared or being achieved through the design of the course. Through the use of internet and innovative online pedagogies, COIL fosters meaningful exchanges between university-level teachers and students with peers, so teacher to teacher with students with fellow students across geographically distant locations, or even from different cultural background, magkakaibang lingwahe. In some cases, especially those from non-English countries, non-English speaking countries, this is an opportunity that they take so that their students can learn English, can learn how to speak, understand, and even write in English. So may mga ganon. It was even proposed to us. I remember the Open University Malaysia even proposed this kind of collaboration, online collaboration among our students. Because in learning the language, you are also learning the culture of a particular country. So we design some courses along that line. Wherein they are learning the language. We call it e-teaching of world languages. We started with Vietnamese. Nihongo is one popular course. Mandarin. What we offered from UPOU is the conversational English. Not so much on Filipino, but more of English, because that's something that they are more interested in, how to learn how to speak English. Thai and Bahasa Indonesia. So we were able to offer those courses. The more popular one was the Nihongo. It was offered by our partner university from Japan, the Open University of Japan. So courses are co-equal and team-taught by educators who collaborate to develop a shared syllabus. So sa simula pa lang, shared syllabus kaagad that emphasizes experiential and collaborative student-centered learning. So the teachers design the course, the curriculum, the syllabus, so that they can also agree on certain things, especially on how the course will be offered and taught. So in most cases, students are enroll sila, respective universities, they are paying the tuition, and they are awarded grades only at their home institution. Kung saan ka naka-enroll, yun yung magbibigay ng grade sa'yo. Yung teacher mo from your institution will be the one to give you the grade. So what is being emphasized here is just the student's experience in interacting with fellow learners. So yun yung ini-enrich because everyone will be bringing the culture, the language, the experience, the ideas, diba? The perception, which can be culturally based, and share them in the online environment. So while the international component of the course takes place solely online, the individual courses may be fully online. So pwedeng-pwede talaga ngayon, di ba? Or more often, are offered in blended formats. So kung walang pandemic, pwedeng face-to-face yung ibang component, especially yung hindi naman, that component of the course which will not require the interaction with the other students from other institutions. Di ba? But ngayon, that with the COVID and everything is online or in the flexible learning pathways, then this is something that we can also design in our instructional delivery model. So yun yung how we describe this collaborative online international learning. So how is it different from a typical online course, di ba? Kasi kung online ka naman, you can also have international students, just like what UPOU is doing now. Like 24% of our students are based outside the country, although many of them are Filipinos, still we were able to attract non-Filipino students coming from other countries or foreigners. So if we are talking of COIL course, they are specifically designed to link students who have different cultural and geographical perspectives and experience. So it is an intentional design of courses. So talagang kasama yan kung ano yung mga topics na i-discuss, di ba? So intentional ang pag-design. It engages students in learning course content both through their own unique cultural lens. So gagamitin mo yung lens mo as a student coming from this country, and also by exchanging their cultural and experiential lenses as they move through the learning material together. So both each student coming from different cultures, so they will use their lens, their cultural lens in learning, but at the same time, they can exchange their thoughts, ideas, so that others will understand why our Vietnamese, for instance, are learning this material from this perspective. Diba? So makikita natin, we will be able to understand why they are looking at things this way. Especially if the creation of meaning is culture-based. No? So, mas madali natin maiintindihan. By helping students to reflect with each other, the partner instructors will be facilitating a cross-cultural dialogue. That brings a global dimension to the course content. Kasi nag-uusap sila, ganito kami, ganito namin ginagawa ito. And somehow, that cross-cultural dialogue can bring that kind of dimension, the global dimension, to our course content. When we are talking of a typical online course, probably just like what we are doing now, this is also true for UPOU, although as I have mentioned, we were able to include students from different parts of the world, coming from different cultures, yes. But this is it is not something that we did intentionally. Although we also emphasize, because of that possibility that we will be having students from different cultures, we also emphasize and make sure that the course materials are also cultural sensitive. Okay? Kasi aware ka that your online course may have students from different culture. So you will not make content, or you will not design content that will marginalize a specific culture. So kasama mo rin sa design yon. But there is no intention to really link with them or discuss their cultural perspective. Diba? Your intent is just to teach the content. And in so doing, also integrate or include the respect for cultural diversity. But the major intention is the teaching of the content. Intercultural exchanges may happen if relevant to the course content or interactions that would facilitate understanding and creating of meanings and knowledge, especially if you are talking of social science courses, no? Which wherein your creation of meaning may have the impact of culture. Diba? Ganito ang pagtingin ko dito because I am coming from this perspective. So in a way, there is also that disclosure that I am coming from this context. So may ganon. But if you are offering online courses, and if it is not under the framework of COIL, then this is something, especially at the graduate level courses, this is something that you can also consider. That there is that possibility that you will be including, or students from other countries, different culture, different nationalities will enroll in your courses. Therefore, this is something that you should also observe. And now, when we talk of ranking, when we talk of evaluation of universities, binibilang din naman sila. Even if our courses are not designed as COIL, they are also counting, they are also getting data. How many international students or foreign students do you have? As yung international students, if your definition of international students is just something based outside the country, they may be Filipinos, right? But they are based outside the country. Katulad nga nung sinabi ko, UPOU, 24% of UPOU student population are based outside the Philippines, but they are not all international students. They are still Filipinos. It just so happened that they are based outside the country. So what we are counting when it comes to internationalization are the foreign students enrolled in our degree programs. So yun yung data na binibigay namin usually. And of course, faculty members. Faculty members who are foreigners and are teaching with us. So yung mga lecturers namin, ganyan. So kasama yun sa binibilang doon sa internationalization. So the COIL course model emphasizes the collaborative process between both teachers and students. So when we talk of collaboration in an online learning under the COIL model, we are also talking of the 4 essential dimensions. So ano yung mga dimension na to? Again, time to reflect on how we can, if we are doing this already, or if there is a possibility that our courses, the course that we are teaching now, the course that we will be teaching next semester, is something that can be redesigned for it to be a COIL course and be counted under the internationalization program of our university. So one, it is a collaborative exercise of teachers and students. So dinidesign, nag-uusap, nag-i-interact. It makes use of online technology and interaction. Kasi nga online, hindi tayo pwede mag face-to-face. And if ever, medyo expensive din yan. And some universities may not be able to send their students abroad or in another country to be able to implement this kind of model. Few years back, well, it's not even few, it's probably about 10 years ago, I was invited to teach in a university in Thailand. So for them, that's their internationalization, because they invited a teacher to teach one of their courses. So I did it in a blended mode. So iba pa rin yun. It's not a COIL course model because it's more of the faculty exchange or an invitation as a lecturer, more of that. So that's another component of internationalization, no? So what I did then, because I cannot be with them for on a full-time basis, I just go there. I think I made the schedule such that I will stay with them 3 weeks during the semester. So 1 week during the start of the semester, another week at the middle of the semester, and another week during the end of the semester. So it can be designed that way. And in in the middle of these face-to-face meetings, we also use the online technology. But in the design of the course, I did the redesigning of the course together with a faculty member in their university. But there were other students, they were able to interact with some Filipino students who are also enrolled in the course. So sabay na inoffer ng UPOU at saka ng university in Thailand. And then nag-interact yung mga estudyante, because the intention also was for them to enrich the environment, the learning environment, by interacting with other students from other countries. That course was on social mobilization, social marketing and social mobilization. And we know that the moment we talk of communication, the moment we talk of mobilization, the moment we talk of social marketing, there is always the cultural component attached to it. So that's why that university made it the design of the course in that way and partnered with us. So again, the dimension, another dimension is it has potential for international dimension, and it is integrated into the learning process. Again, it is not incidental. You design it to be part of the course. The collaboration, especially among the students, is integrated into the design of learning. So again, the COIL course model aims to explore the multimodal potential of online communication, especially now that many universities all over the world are into online learning. So although this is the normal situation, ngayon, it will not allow collaborating students to meet over coffee or go out dancing once their work is done, etc. Through social media, partners can still engage in informal communication with their distant peers in much the same way as they do with their local peers, using everyday tools such as Facebook. Sa mga Filipino students pa, we are very much into social media, so it will not be a different, they will be able to find a way to interact and collaborate, communicate with students from other countries and other institutions. So what are the steps? How shall we go about in developing COIL courses? Again, let's take a look at the courses that we are handling, the courses that we will be teaching, and let's see if this is something that we will be able to do or implement at the course level. We are talking at the course level. So step one, determine the content and institutional resources, the content of your course, and what do you have? What do you have in your institution? So these are the considerations. So what qualities make a course a good candidate for a collaborative online international learning experience? So ano yung mga kurso na pwede? And in order for us to answer that question, there are also other set of questions. So which components of your course would be enhanced? It may not be the whole course. It can just be one or two components. So are there components, or which components would be enhanced if students could discuss their implications with peers in another geolocation? Diba? Meron bang component nitong aking kurso na mai-enhance if the students will be interacting with each other? So when I was preparing for this presentation, I was also thinking what courses may not lend itself to be developed as a COIL course. So sabi ko, baka engineering, architecture. Pero if you will look at the design, mga buildings, ganyan, even kahit nga airport lang, kung titingnan natin yung mga design ng mga airports, they can already be a good comparison. So pwede pa rin magkaroon ng interaction. Why are these buildings designed this way, etc.? Why are the houses designed this way? Diba? So po pwede pa rin. Much more so if these are social sciences. Okay, so which components of your course might be de-emphasized? Yung medyo, if you will be emphasizing on this collaborative online learning, baka merong maiwan. Baka may component ng course na maiwan. Okay? Or which could be more foregrounded to encourage time for extensive discussion and collaboration. So titingnan mo, of course, what will play here or what will be considered here is the learning outcome. Okay? Ano ba yung learning outcome natin? Paano makakatulong in achieving the learning outcome if we will implement our course as a COIL course? So balik ulit tayo sa learning outcome. How would having multiple or different cultural perspectives enhance your students' understanding of the course content, diba? And energize your classroom? In one of the webinar sessions that I did for the CHED training program, we also discussed motivating and engaging our online learners or remote learners. So is this something that we can implement in our courses, in our courses in remote instruction, that will engage and motivate our students? Medyo tataas yung level of interest nila, di ba? If they will be given this opportunity to interact with international learners. And are there projects that the two student cohorts, yung estudyante from that university, ang estudyante natin, are there projects that they could develop together? Videos that they can share, course-related artifacts that they could exchange and discuss cross-culturally. So again, let's reflect on the course that we are handling now and see, meron ba tayong mga sagot at potential for that course to be a COIL course? Again, are you ready to teach your course in a technology-enhanced way? So especially yung sa ating blended mode, tayo ngayon na may online, may offline, yung mga materials natin offline, yung bang online component natin, can that component lend itself to this kind of collaboration with a foreign university? And do you have the support of your institution? Again, the flexibility in course content for existing courses, especially kung ito-tweak mo yung content nung course, nung kurso mo. In some universities, there is a limit to what we teachers can change in our course syllabus. So if we're going to design our courses for it to be a COIL course, and we may have to introduce some changes, what kind of flexibility do we have to do that without having to go through the various levels of approval, etc.? Diba? Medyo magtatagal. Especially if this is for the existing course. If we are thinking of designing a new course, do we have the institutional support to do that? And if ever, can our university provide the technology and technical support? Again, it may not be too difficult now, especially if our mode of instructional delivery already included the online component, kasi it is already in place. If compared it to wala talagang online component, at talagang dito mo lang ito gagawin. But now that we were able to put in place the technology, the infrastructure, we were trained, our faculty, our students are already into this mode of instruction, it is now easier to do it compared to the pre-COVID time. Okay? Step 2, obtaining and developing your partnership. So saan ba? Wala akong kapartner ngayon. Biglang isip, paano ko ba ito gagawin? Kaninong university ako makikipag-usap? So think of the university's existing partners. Sino ba yung mga kapartner ng university? Are we offering same programs? Meron ba mga kurso na magkakapareho? O kung wala man, may mga pwede ba akong kausapin doon? Professors in those other partner universities so that we can design this kind of course. Or even our own professional network. Kahit yung professional network natin, mga kaibigan natin from other institutions, which we were able to form throughout the year, for instance. If I may share also another experience, last Saturday, I was invited to speak in a webinar session, and it was organized by a group of professors. Iba-ibang university sila eh. But they are a group of professors, but there's one link, yung ka-network, professional network, from Indiana University. I have this network with that professor from Indiana University, and he has networks in other universities in Asia, especially in Southeast Asia. So what he did was to organize a webinar session wherein that network, several networks were put together. But it so happened that we also knew one another because we are also networks among ourselves. And after that webinar session, from another network, I received a message saying that, can we do this together? Because I've heard your description of what you are doing now, and can we do this together? So that is already tapping on my own professional network. So siya din, yung ding that person who sent me a message was a professor in a university in Japan. So can we do these things together? Last year there was also an invitation for me to be involved in a research project. Yun naman ay a professional network which I was able to form when I was invited to give lectures, face-to-face lecture ito in Lancaster University. So, nag-invite din for a research collaboration. So, personal, professional networking din lang yung nag-involve doon. So, if you already have a partner, then you go directly to step number 3, yung we will begin the negotiation. But if you don't have a partner, the question is, where can you locate one? Again, balik tayo, wala ba tayong pwedeng makita doon sa ating mga partner universities, professional network. But when we are seeking a partner, what are some of the key criteria that we need to consider? One is that partner should also be committed to this work that we are proposing to do. Kasi mahirap kung yung one side lang yung kung tayo lang yung may interest, di ba? Kasi mahihirapan tayong makipag-collaborate kapag hindi naman talaga masyadong interesado yung magiging kausap natin. Because you will also be sharing the course development process. You will be discussing a lot of things. And if that person is not committed to this kind of work, medyo mahihirapan kayo na mag-implement ng course. And you also need to consider the differences in institutional culture. Even in the Philippines nga, magkakaiba tayo ng institutional culture. Much more so kapag ka ito ay when we are talking of foreign universities. So, right from the start, planning stage pa lang, you already openly discuss the institutional culture, hierarchy that may need to be navigated if there is to be a successful outcome of the collaboration. This is especially true if you are developing a new course. Diba? Tayo, I don't know about your institutions, but like for instance, in my institution, before we can even put in place one course, you cannot do it next semester. Probably 1 year. 1 year is 1 year. And if it's a degree, if it's a credit course, if it's not a credit course, then the process will be shorter. But if it is a credit course, then probably you need to have at least 1 year to work on that one particular course and have it instituted. So may mga ganong kultura yung mga institutions. Okay? So ito na yung step 3, begin negotiation. So how are you going to do it? So again, you discuss at the onset the details of the collaboration. Nakalagay nga dito, so that you will reduce the surprises that may arise as you continue implementing the collaborative work. So determine a timeline for your collaboration. Are we talking of 1 semester? Are we talking of 1 year? Consider issues such as time zones, technological resources available for the collaboration. So baka mamaya ang ka-partner ninyo is a university from Europe or from US, from Canada. So iba yung time zone nila kaysa sa atin. So anong time zone yung gagamitin natin, 'di ba? Especially magsiset pa nga lang kayo ng meeting pag-uusapan na yung time zone dito. One particular example was that webinar session that I did last Saturday. It was 9 o'clock in the US. Yun yung ginamit namin na time talaga. So it was 9 o'clock where I am, diba, sa Pilipinas. So alas 9 ng gabi, you are preparing, instead of preparing to sleep, you are preparing to deliver a webinar session. I also happen to be in collaboration with some institutions in Europe. So I always find myself moderating sessions, 10:30 in the evening, 11, or even attending meeting ng ganon. Kasi yung time zone nila, although they also show respect to the time zone of other participants, but in most cases, I will find myself participating in meetings 10 in the evening, 11 in the evening. It will be late afternoon for them. So because other time zones will have to be considered as well. Other participants may find themselves getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so something like that. But that is, again, when you talk of internationalization, that is something that we really have to contend with. Another thing is, of course, we have to discuss the content. Ano ba ituturo natin? And how can the collaboration among learners can enrich the course? Shared learning objectives. What is it that we want to achieve? What are the learning outcomes that we hope to see? And how do we intend to assess the students? So this type of discussion may best be accomplished with some of the templates. So if you go to the guide that I have shown earlier, and the link also is included in my list of references, there is a very detailed template on how you will be able to accomplish itong mga information, discussion that you need to do at the start of the collaboration. Okay? So ito, I have mentioned this already. Issue of time, which time zone, what time zone are you going to follow? Remember, we are talking here of students. We are not just the teacher. And if we are talking of different language, of course, we are saying that English can be the language, but if your intention also is to learn the language of the other country, then this is something that you can also consider. So like, for instance, you are teaching another language, Espanyol, diba? Ngayon, ano na yan, we have so many courses like that. Even French, halimbawa, world history. Bawa. Tapos gusto nyo maintindihan kung ano yung naging influence ng country na to, etc. And you also want to have an experience, your students having an experience of the language together with the culture. Then you may even opt to do this with the basic preparation for our students. Course content, what is it that we are going to teach them? Diba? Shared, di ba? Kailangan course content mo, course content ko, so pareho tayo na ituturo. Assessment of learning, how are we going to assess what happened after the collaboration? Again, institutional cultures and expectations, and the kind of support that we can get from our respective institutions. Another model, so ito na yung COIL, yun yung isang model or strategy for internationalization. This is another model, and this is something, again, that we've been doing even before COVID. But something that we can also tap, or we can also implement even during the COVID-19. Faculty exchange, or tapping experts as lecturers in the online mode of instruction. They don't have to come here, but they can teach our courses under the following modes. One, they can handle one whole course for the entire semester. An international expert teaching one course and being appointed as lecturer. Or pwedeng team teaching. May from the university, tayo halimbawa, magtatap tayo ng another teacher, a fellow expert from another university, and we will be teaching one course for the semester. And this, again, invited as lecturer, and can be part of our internationalization faculty exchange program. Enrollment in online credit courses. Most universities are offering online courses now. So our undergraduate students can cross-enroll in relevant online courses offered by partner universities instead of us sending them there. Usually, some universities have this kind of program, like exposure, ganyan. We will be bringing our students, our group of students, to a particular country because we know that that will enrich their learning experience. But now that is no longer possible, we can even look at what courses, since they are also online, what courses can our students cross-enroll in our partner universities. And faculty and staff doing advanced degree programs also can enroll in online courses partnered by or offered by our partner universities under a sandwich program or program enrichment. The other strategy is enrollment in MOOCs. Of course, we have discussed this during the last webinar session. Those who were able to join us during the last webinar session, I have given this figures. There are 110 million students now enrolled in MOOCs. These are the major major MOOCs provider, and 900 universities offering this type of courses. But before we can consider enrolling, for instance, our students, our faculty, our academic staff in these MOOCs, there has to be an institutional arrangement and process for the selection. Ano bang MOOC? I mean, if especially if that particular MOOC will be credited to your program, or even recognized as a continuing professional development. So how are we going to choose which course to enroll in? And then how are we going to assess? Especially if we are talking of the transfer of the equivalent credits earned, diba? Towards the degree program of the student. So ano yun? It has to be an institutional policy already. So before we even go into this mode or strategy of internationalization, there has to be a policy. In UP, this kind of policy is now being discussed. Kung paano gagawin as part of the internationalization program of our academic staff and even students. So, assessment of learning, gagawa pa ba tayo niyan, etc. What evidence to present so that we can really say that the student has learned or was able to complete the course. Again, so even now, we can do research collaboration and joint authorship. Earlier, I mentioned about our collaboration with other open universities. And even before the pandemic, we were doing the collaboration online. But we make it a point that we also meet, kasi this has been going on for probably 10 years already. The collaboration, the research collaboration has been going on. But we make it a point that every year, there will be a face-to-face meeting of the group. Diba? May mga presentation ng mga output, ganyan. And in most cases, we schedule it during the annual conference of the association where we all vote, all members of. So, kasama dun sa schedule of activities namin is to attend the conference and also meet as a group. So, we were able to do that, except I think last year, where we were not able to do that, but there was a separate meeting hosted by one member institution. So, nagte-take turns din ng pag-host yung mga member institutions. So, last year, it was UPOU which hosted. This year, it was planned for February with Sukhothai Thammasat Open University hosting it in Thailand. But that did not push through because of the COVID-19. So may mga ganong arrangements na, and the kind of collaboration is really great. Co-organizing online conferences, forums, this is something that we can also do, given that many conferences are now being held online. And of course, not just co-organizing, but attending online conferences, presenting papers in online conferences. Diba? So this is something that we can very well do now. Even in my university at UPOU, many of our colleagues are also requesting support so that they can attend international conferences which are now being held online. These are the resources, the materials that I use. So you can also go back to these links and read more about what I had presented this morning. So again, thank you very much.